Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. Working virtually, use multi-factor authentication to protect accounts. Part 2 of Security Summit tips for tax professionals. IR 2020-170, July 28, 2020, Washington. With heightened threats during COVID-19, the Internal Revenue Service and Security Summit, there's a link to the Security Summit here, partners today called on tax professionals to select multi-factor authentication options whenever possible to prevent identity thieves from gaining access to client accounts. Starting in 2021, all tax software providers will be required to offer multi-factor authentication options on their products that meet higher standards. So they're going to put new standards into the software that most tax professionals will use, which will include more multi-factor authentication, which of course will make it a little bit more difficult to log into the software, but should be preventative of people to log in that aren't authorized to do so. And one of the major things that people are worried about is with the e-file, of course, is the logging in even virtually, someone virtually basically logging in. And that would be much more difficult to do if there was a multi-factor identification process in place. So many already do so. A multi-factor or two-factor authentication offers an extra layer of protection for the username and password used by the tax professional. It often involves a security code sent via text. So that's often going to be what you're going to see. You're probably used to that. We're going to get a text that you're going to have to enter the text into, or whatever you get on the text into the software in order to have multi-factor. The idea being that it's unlikely if someone's trying to remotely or someone unauthorized log into the software, even if they have the password, to have then the phone on hand and somehow be able to get the password that's going to be texted and whatnot. Back to the text. Using multi-factor authentication is the second in a 5-part series called Working Virtually, Protecting Tax Data at Home and at Work. The public awareness initiative by the IRS, state tax agencies, and the private sector tax industry working together as Security Summit spotlights basic security steps for all practitioners, but especially those working remotely or social distancing in response to COVID-19. Quote, cybercriminals continue to find new ways to try accessing tax professionals and taxpayer data. The multi-factor authentication option is an easy, free way to really step up protection of client data, end quote, said Commissioner Chuck Reddick. Quote, all tax software products will make it a feature, and it's part of the larger effort to protect taxpayers and tax community, end quote. Of the numerous data thefts reported to the IRS from tax professional offices this year, most could have been avoided had the practitioner used multi-factor authentication to protect tax software accounts. Thieves use a variety of scams, but most commonly by a phishing email, will download malicious software, such as keystroke software. This malware will eventually enable them to steal all passwords from a tax pro. Once the thief has accessed the practitioner's networks and tax software accounts, they will complete pending taxpayer returns, alter refund information, and use practitioners' own e-filing and preparer numbers to file the fraudulent returns. So once they have all the passwords, then they might be able to access, then of course, the software. Once accessing the software, actually filing returns and having access to the information to do so from the actual software. That would not be good. So back to the text. However, with multi-factor authentication, it's unlikely the thief will have stolen the practitioner's cell phone, so he would not receive the necessary security code to access the account. This protects the tax pro's account information. Practitioners can download to their mobile phones ready available authentication apps offered through Google Play or Apple Store. These apps will generate a security code. Codes also may be sent to practitioners' email or text, but those are not as secure as authentication apps. Use a search engine for, quote, authentication apps, end quote, to learn more. In addition to tax software accounts, practitioners should use multi-factor authentication whenever it is offered. For example, cloud storage providers and commercial email products offer multi-factor protections as do social media outlets. IRS e-services is an example of an account using multi-factor authentication. So obviously your storage, when you got to store a bunch of data, now we got a lot of data that we need to store, then it could be stored virtually or wherever it's stored, you're going to want multi-factor authentication there, and it'd be good just to have multi-factor authentication on your normal kind of processes like the social media and whatnot, in case those get hacked into or for whatever reason, and possibly having phishing scams and whatnot going on with those as well. So additional resources. Tax professionals also can get help with security recommendations by reviewing recently revised IRS publication 4557, Safeguarding Taxpayer Data. There's a link to that here. And Small Business Information Security Fundamentals. There's a PDF. There's a link to that here by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Publication 5293, Data Security Resource Guide for Tax Professionals. There's a link to that here. Provides a compilation data theft information available on irs.gov. Also, tax professionals should stay connected to the IRS through the subscriptions to e-news for tax professionals and social media, or visit irs.gov/identity theft. There's a link to those 3 items here. There'll be a link to this in the description.